Hello, my friends, and welcome to another Watercolor Wednesday episode. Today, we're going to be painting a really moody-esque painting, so if that's sort of what you're into today or you're bored, stick around, grab a paintbrush, a piece of paper, and follow along. So, for the first part, as you saw me do a little bit, or a few seconds ago rather, I just covered the entire painting with water using a mop brush. And then I started painting on these little wisps of black paint onto the top half, and this is obviously going to be the sky. It doesn't have to be perfect, and as you can see, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just painting on random swoops to make them look like clouds, so I guess the more imperfect that it looks, the more natural it's going to look. So just have fun with this part. Don't beat yourself up if it doesn't look as you envisioned, because it will all come together at the end of the painting. You want to make sure that your surface is constantly wet, especially when you're just painting the first layer, and this is to make sure that you're not, cultivating that cauliflower effect, because that's definitely not what we want, and that's what happens when basically wet paint seeps onto a dry portion and makes it look like a cauliflower, so you definitely want to avoid that. Anyways, I painted some very light mountainous shadows where I wanted the outlines of my trees to be, basically, and then I very lightly started painting on some pine trees in the background, and I used a very light gray color for this portion just because it is sort of the background of the painting, so we want to make it look like it's super far away. So while I'm painting this painting, it's actually quite representative of what the environment looks like outside right now, both physically and sort of mentally. This sort of gray feeling has been the mood lately, especially with everything that's going on in the world. And while I was painting this painting, I was listening to this song on YouTube. Basically, somebody took one of Hozier's songs and they edited it so that it sounded like it was coming from a cathedral in a forest. So it sounded like it was really far away and there were birds tweeting, and you should look it up because it's very therapeutic, and I just felt like it was very calming and soothing while I was painting this sort of moody painting. So basically, as your layers dry, you just want to paint on darker and darker pine trees just to add depth to the painting. Obviously, the darker you get, the closer that those trees are going to look to the viewer. So you want your darker trees to be sort of towards the bottom of the painting, and you also want to make them a little bit bigger than the ones in the background, because again, that makes it look like some trees are closer to you than others, so you want to create that perspective. And yeah, just have fun with it. I honestly didn't really know. I didn't have an exact plan in mind when I was painting this particular painting. I just sort of went with it. Sometimes paint would spread to where I didn't intend for it to, and it turned out to be really nice. So basically, any gray paintings with a bunch of pine trees on them, I think, end up looking really, really good, regardless of your ability to paint pine trees. Even if you have just blobs on there, it looks good because it just looks like there's fog that has washed out the pine trees. But if you want another tip, actually, if you invest in a really good quality round brush, I think that is one of the best things you can do to improve your painting after you've sort of hit a plateau. I use a variety of round brushes, but my favorite one is the size 14 round brush by Grumbacher, and I've linked to that brush in the description if you want to purchase it and add it to your collection. But it's just so versatile because it not only has a very fine tip, which allows you to create really tiny details like the tips of these pine trees, but it's size 14, so it has quite a wide base, so you can layer on quite a large amount of pigment onto your paper. And it also allows you to create really smooth edges. It's really great for painting on green leaves or flower petals. I just love that brush. If I had to only choose one brush out of my entire collection, I would choose my size 14 round brush. It's just the best. So as you can see, I'm just adding some final touches onto my painting. Once I was sure that my sky was completely dry, I added these little dots in random places to make it look like there were birds flying in the distance. I also added some random rocks or whatever you want these things to be sticking out of the water. It sort of reminds me of that little town in BC called Tofino. I've never actually been there myself, but my brothers have been and they've shown me pictures, and this is really what it looks like. It's just super gray and foggy and beautiful, and there are pine trees everywhere and just tropical looking trees. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed painting along. Take care of yourselves, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to check out some of my other videos.